Yo guys, welcome back to another video, and yes, we've got the update 1 tier list for anime Crusaders, and yes, there are a lot of tiers, but I'll go through each of them. And it might sound stupid to have a summoner tip because Ghetto's the only summoner, but it's just to split up Ghetto with the other hybrids, because having 5 meta hybrids just does not add up. So let's just go through it from the top to the bottom, I guess. So first off, where's Ghetto? Am I just being Ghetto? Okay, cool. Ghetto, he's the only summoner. Like, the new maps kind of cook him over, I guess, because the new maps are pretty long pathed. I think the legend stage ones in the train, they have a lot of twists and turns, meaning I don't think his summons actually reached the spawn. So pretty much Ghetto kind of got nerfed in the new map. But overall he's still a good unit because he's hitting flying on placement. That's what's very good about him. Then next up we go to meta hybrids, Let me just put them in order of what I think they are. This is the order I think. So pretty much Akaza and Rengoku, they have been buffed, and they are pretty crazy, the damage they can do to a boss, the overall DPS they have, burn, disorder, all that other stuff, it's purely hidden DPS. And yes, the damage that you see is not going to be crazy, but trust me, all of it is hidden. And then we got Sid, he's a full AoE hybrid, not too expensive to max out, and he is true damage, so for early game, he's gonna be pretty good, when there isn't any like Owen buffers or Wenda buffers, he can stand strong because, pure resistance to all typings is very good early game. And that's what makes him very good, and he also has a passive 22.5% chance to get 200% more damage on one of his attacks, and it can proc anytime, it can be consistently, it can take forever, there's so many scenarios with it, you can either get lucky with it or unlucky with it. It's just pretty just pure RNG. And then Broly here, he can gain like, I'm pretty sure he gains like 15% damage. And he can also do the same thing with 200% damage, same like Sid, but his one is every 10 attacks, which is, not ideal, because let's say his SPA is like 9, it will take him about 90 seconds to hit that. And Sid's SPA is like 6.7, well, my Sid, and I'm not actually trying to make jokes, my Sid is 6.7, so pretty much in the time he does like 14 or 15 attacks, he could probably get his 22.5% chance off like a few times before Broly hits his 200% chance, 200% damage. So yeah. And overall Igris, he has crazy DPS, he synergizes with Sanjuru, and that's where most of his passive come from. But if you have Sanjuru up and you're running Igris's DPS can reach about, like, with the Crusaders, I'm pretty sure it's like 28k DPS. And the fact that his second passive has been broken since release, I've been asking to get it fixed, and for some reason it hasn't been fixed, but his second passive is broken, meaning he's not even at his true potential, because he should be buffing allies, meaning that buff should go to himself as well. Was it 10% SPA and 10% damage? So that's why he's still in the meta hybrid, Maybe after future updates he falls down to good hybrid, but for now he's still in meta hybrid. Then next off we go to meta ground, Tengen. He's the new meta ground unit. He's very good, recently he's been going through a lot of tweaks, they changed his marbles to hybrid, they've been changing his damage, how his marbles work, but overall, from what I've known and the things I've tested in the test server, Tengen is top 1 meta ground. A lot of his damage is hidden. I think with Crusaders he can go up to like 18k DPS, but of course most of his damage is hidden. He got built-in crits, he's got marbles that do 25% of his own damage stat, and he can chuck a lot of them. I'm not sure how it functions now because a lot of changes have been made to him, but he's still top 1. And yes, if you've seen the last tier list of the last video, the 0.5 tier list, I have Nagamo at number 2 over Sanjuru, and the reason for this is how versatile he is and his partnerships with a few units. Law is a prime example of one of his partnerships, and Toji is another prime example of one of his partnerships. With these 2 units, pretty much, Nagamo can pull out crazy DPS. I'm pretty sure with Law it's about 33k DPS or 32k DPS. And also, the reason Nagamo's meta ground, you can probably put him in support as well, but pretty much he can take on the support categories as well. So if a unit specific attack does bleed, burn, slow, any other CC, freeze, etc., sleep, which is the new one from Emu, he can apply those as well. So pretty much if you use him with Rukia, that uses Disguise on Rukia, You can have like a 40 range full AoE freeze, you know, that's enough. Then Sanjiru, he has good DPS. He has his summons, which add basically extra DPS to him. And just overall a lot of damage, you know. He's still a good unit. And he definitely helps Igris just stay up there. And then next up we got Law, you know. I guess so Sakamoto and Law. Between Sakamoto and Law is quite interchangeable. Recently, Law has been changed to magic typing, which I wouldn't say is quite good for him because physical units are definitely a lot better, especially with Rengoku. Akaza and Rengoku applying a 15% physical debuff to enemies. So physical units have been getting, you know, a better buff, I guess, because you're gonna be ideally running these guys. So pretty much you're gonna be able to use that 15% consistently. And I think it lasts for 10 seconds. I'm pretty sure. So that's why physical units have been have gotten a good buff. Don't see why they changed him to magic, but I'm sure they have something planned. But there are a few magic buffers, but we'll get into that later. But Law, he can provide good DPS, but outside of his ability, his DPS is nothing special, you know. Sakamoto has an overall better DPS, you know, because his passives allow him to keep that DPS just consistent. And then Toji, you know, he has the true damage within his kit. He also has overall good damage, he can bleed as well. Still a great unit, and I'm pretty sure when he attacks the same enemy consistently, he does more damage. He's very good brown unit. He has like 6 or 7k SPA. What's 6 or 7k DPS? I think that's with overdrive as well. So a very good unit, very good ground unit. Then next up we go to the meta heals. We have Hiski at first. Then Choi at second, because these two, they pretty much don't change. Their DPS is crazy. And Darky, the new heal unit. And the only reason she's in meta heal is because her, I guess, would you count as a support? Yeah, I guess kind of, because she has added value because she is a bleed unit, and she's the only unit who can hit flying types that is bleed. So if there's flying regens, she's pretty much going to be needed. That's why she has added value, because she is pretty much a heal bleed. So until they add another heal bleed or a hybrid bleed, she's going to be in the meta heal for a good while. So she would age out pretty well. And if I am correct, yeah, 2 other passives don't work, so you can't really see her true DPS right now. So that's pretty much it, second and third passive. Then next up we go to the good hybrids. You know, this is controversial. I have Tanjiro here. A lot of you guys might want to chuck him up to here, and I can see why. With Giyu, and his partnership with Giyu is pretty good, yeah, but a lot of his damage is burst damage, and it's not very consistent. And yes, he has his passive where he can do 200% true damage. I guess that's the thing that makes me consider him for the meta hybrid. He's like borderline, you know. You guys might be arguing he's meta hybrid, but I'll say he's pretty much borderline. I'll say he's at the very top of good hybrid. He is a good unit, and he can do a lot of damage. He has the 200% true damage every 15 seconds. And that alone gives him a good value, because he's the only other hybrid unit other than Sid. And he is a limited unit, so, you know, not you guys can't get him anymore. You can't get Sid anymore, but he is a limited unit. That's why, you know, him having the 200% true damage to hybrid enemies makes him... I mean, he's a hybrid, so he can attack flying enemies, which makes him very good. And then let's go on to the next one. The next one is NL. Just a good hybrid overcharge state. He can get good DPS in. You know, he does more damage when he's attacking stunned or frozen enemies, I'm pretty sure. Or enemies under status effects. Pretty good unit. Wouldn't say he's meta hybrid. He's just a good hybrid. And then you got Rimuru. Good hybrid. He's a battle pass unit. You can't expect much from him. But he has like similar passive to Broly and Sid, where he just does like a crazy big damage attack. But it's not really as good as Sid and Broly, and his overall DPS is nothing crazy compared to them. And next up, we got the good grounds. You know, we have Boo at the top of good ground. In the last tier list, he was like borderline getting out of meta ground, but with the addition of Tengen, don't see how you can have 7 meta grounds, so can't really fit him into there. He's very good though, because he has a cheap full AoE, and on Evo, he's full AoE, so, you know, really can't complain with that. And then next up, you got Xiaoten. She's another very good ground unit. She's like... Guess you can argue between them who's better, but pretty good ground unit. Then next up we have, who's next? King. He's recently got his passives in 0.5. Makes him a lot better than what he was before. Nothing crazy though, it's pretty meh. You got Chain, Ichigo, all meh. You got Hiei, pretty meh as well. Pretty much these three are just like the They're just, I guess, kind of irrelevant. They're just meh. You know, I can't really say much about them. Guess I can just chuck them in here. Yeah, I guess I'll chuck them in there. You guys can argue whatever want for them. They're just pretty irrelevant. You won't really go out of your way to use them. So yeah, just whatever. And then Good Hill, you pretty much just got Goku. He doesn't really, you won't be using him over any of these other hills. And you got the other hills, the legendary hills. So pretty much just put them up here as well in Good Hill. And then of course just chuck these two in irrelevant, and the rest are just support categories. So pretty much we've got Rio. She's the new support. She's the Infinity Castle. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's the traitless one or traits, but she's there. And she pretty much applies a 30% buff and a 30% damage buff and a 15% range buff every 10 seconds to allies. And that alone is the strongest buff in the game, I'm pretty sure. You just have to, you can time it, so just place two Rios 10 seconds apart, and it only works for units in range. So if you have a specifically targeting one unit within her range, she can pretty much consistently apply that buff to that same ally. So you can have a consistent 30% damage buff and a 15% range buff to your units, and that alone is very good. The next up we have I, you know, she's consistent 18% damage buff, and she has the cost reduction. Can't go wrong with that. Pretty much still going to be meta, meta support I guess. Giyu, this is the new unit in this update. Pretty crazy support, I'd say. You know, he's very crazy. And what he does is, during his ability, he can slow all enemies in his range. You know, flying or not, flying, ground, all those units. Enemies can be slowed by 50% of his, just 50% slow for 2.9 seconds. So that alone is crazy. And next up, let's see. I'm pretty sure I have Enmu here. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'd have Enmu. Give me a second. Yeah, I have Enmu here. He has a new new CC where it's called Sleep. It makes enemies take just stop moving for 2 seconds, and it's on every attack. So pretty much every attack he has, you can apply that. And the cooldown is 10 seconds. So I guess the perfect SPA would be, of course, 10 seconds or either 5 seconds to have it perfectly consistently applying the sleep. And other than that, he's pretty much a very good ground as well, because his overall DPS with what his passives work with, this is very good as well. He has very good DPS as well. So it's like he has a thing where he has like, he leaves a path where he can linger path, the lingering effect where it takes 10% damage each time. So yeah, he's very good at ground as well, but you rather use support. And I did mention Rio's damage factor. She has a good damage factor where I think after 5 stacks of applying, she applies a stack each time, each hit. And after 5 stacks, she takes 10% off the HP. So yeah, that's why she's also very good as well. You can use her as a good ground as well. And next up we have Rukia. You know, full AoE hybrid freeze, can't complain. You know, you guys know about that. Then Koichi, hybrid, slow as well. He's very cheap. That's why I'd say you can argue him over Giyu, because Giyu needs to take like I don't even know the yen for Giyu, but Giyu cost a lot of yen to get to his ability. It's like upgrade 8, and Koichi is like low cost and doesn't take long to upgrade, you know. So you can argue Koichi above Giyu, but Giyu's slow is a lot better, I'm pretty sure. Especially since he has a higher range as well. He hits all enemies in range. His one's of course within his attack AoE. Yes, that's the one downside to it, but Koichi is more consistent because he's a lot cheaper. Next up we have Shanks. You know, he does his stun. Pretty sure his stun is only when he's at upgrade 8 or high upgrade, so not really crazy. And you rather use, I guess, these guys ahead of him anyway. Then next up we have, he's full AoE by the way, so, but you can't hit hybrid, so not really crazy. You have Gojo. He has a, pretty sure his Void is full AoE, but the issue is it's not hybrid as well. So yeah, kind of cooked on that part. He's like a line AoE, narrow line as well, so not really crazy in terms of damage. And next up we have Blackbeard over the Witch. You know, Sweet Witch, she recently got an additional passive. Beforehand, she had just a mid passive where she'll just do more damage when she doesn't attack for 12 seconds, but now she has a passive where she gains an active ability which makes enemies take 7% more magic damage for 10 seconds, and the cooldown is 25 seconds. The issue is with this is Blackbeard applies a 15% was it 10 or 15% damage buff for magic allies. So it just pretty much is built and he's full AoE and it's on his own attack, not from ability. So that's why he's a lot better. And yeah, speed cart, let's just throw him whatever. He doesn't really matter. I didn't want to really put speed cart and Lloyd in here just because the tier list would be like, okay, so why did I just, okay, I can't move him down now. Well, he just did, I guess. That's pretty much it. You know, Lloyd will be, of course, here in front of Speedwagon, but that's pretty much it. That's for the tier list. Let me know what you think about it, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.